Between the two of them.
The inside of Coates.
Martin gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the final round of the GT500 Championship powered by VRRC. You join us at Sugo, and if you've never heard of the circuit, don't worry, you're not alone. I haven't either. But I've been fairly assured that it is a great circuit to drive, and hopefully will produce some absolutely stellar racing. And you can see a few of the track shots in the background. My name is Jack Oliphant, and I'm joined to round out the series. He's been in every single round. It's Lewis Edwards. And Lewis, you 4 rounds in a row you've been in the commentary box, and it's always a delight to have you here. You've been more consistent than I have anyway. And, well, we're coming up to the finale. Championships to be decided, action to be had, and reverse grid drama to be watched as well. Looking forward to this one?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Welcome back to you as well, Jack. You're not doing yourself a bit harsh there. You have been helping out with the VRRC events, which is the reason you haven't been here, as you well know. So Jack does help out Rich with lots of the in-person events that VRRC do, where we'll take a simulator to an event. So Jack's underselling himself a bit there. He has been helping out in other ways, not just viciously abandoning us in the commentary box. But yes, really looking forward to it tonight. It's a technical circuit not many people know, and it should be really exciting. We've got a good championship battle on our hands.
We do indeed, yes, and you're far too kind to me, Lewis. It's been always looking forward to jumping back in the commentary box. But we have got a championship on our hands. You're absolutely right. It's only been the 4 rounds that we've had for this little sort of mini championship, we call it. It's a bit of a filler in between the 2 touring cars, which are, of course, our main events. We've been to Suzuka, Okayama, Twin Ring Motegi, and Sugo. And I have to say, Suzuka wasn't exactly the most exciting racing we had going. I believe Okayama was pretty dramatic. I think that was the round I wasn't here. And Twin Ring Motegi, which is quite hard to say, we certainly produced a lot of drama and therefore created a very tight championship going into the 4th and final one here. It's Sugo, like I've mentioned a couple of times. We do have more on offer in the coming weeks with more VRRC action on our way. We've got fun races, we've got time attacks, and we've got all other things. But we'll get to that come the end of this evening and the end of the championship, of course. But how does the championship currently look? That's what we're all asking ourselves, isn't it? And who is in contention? Well, we can ask ourselves in a minute, because first of all, we have to figure out how we got there. And Lewis, I normally throw to you for this bit, don't we? Because you've got an awfully lot better memory for this sort of thing than I have. So how did Josh Martin come away with 46 points?
By driving better than everyone else, put simply. put simply, that's usually how the top drivers do it. Yeah, Josh got pole position. I think, no, it was Odin who got pole. He just nicked it from Josh, I think it was. And Josh just managed to not overdo it in his pursuit of beating Odin. And Odin did, in fact, make the mistake in race 1, which gifted Josh the lead. Josh then in, I would say, less frequent Josh Martin style now, but the return to the old Josh Martin just disappeared off up the road. And that was about it for him in race 1. And then in race 2...
boring for him.
Yeah, it was an uneventful race for Josh, which is exactly what he needed. A nice little confidence boost for him to be that far in front at the end of race 1. And then in race 2, he got embroiled in a huge battle featuring plenty of different cars. We had Joel, we had Eric, we had Odin, we had Josh, we had Elliot. But one man came out victorious in that second race, and that was Craig Curtis. So we had 2 surprise winners in 2 rounds, which is brilliant to see. Those drivers who usually don't end up on the podium both ending up on the top step, which is great to see. and that got him the driver of the round. Joel Lask didn't have the pace of the others around him, but managed to keep out of trouble, and incredibly, carrying COVID with him, he still managed to get P2 in the overall results of that round. And then Odin managed to scrap his way to P3 amid a few little mistakes and minor collisions among his competition. But as Jack's alluded to a few times, we've got a championship fight on our hands tonight.
We do indeed. Eric Axelson, who we didn't mention at all in that little brief rundown of what happened last week, he still tops the charts by about 5 points to Joel Lask, who had a bit of a barnstormer, as Lewis has just said. Not necessarily the fastest out there on circuit last week, but he did come home with a massive haul of points. And to be honest, he was definitely one of my honourable mentions for driver of the round, doing all of that with COVID and defending like a madman, proving that you can do it in these cars as well. So he's only 5 points back, and he is very, very quick tonight as well in terms of the practice times. Keep an eye out on him when it comes around to qualifying. Odin Masuria, he's in third place, looking to try and be the outside shout for the championship. He's not necessarily as quick as the likes of Joel, maybe a little bit further off the pace. He has a lot of weight on board as well. He may not get that pole position like he did at Twin Ring, but you never know. He could end up coming home with the championship. It's all probably going to come down to that race number 2, as long as those top 3 keep it nice and clean in race number 1. Craig Curtis, with that lovely race 2 victory, has hauled himself up to 4th place ahead of Paul Laramie. Josh Martin, who was, pretty dire at the beginning of the season, has again hauled his way up to 6th position, just outside the prize points. We'll get to the prizes in a second. Kenny Press, John Jones, Chris Blakely, and Andy Carroll round out the top 10. And there are prizes. I've mentioned them a few times during that rundown. And here they are. It's a lot of merch that you can get your hands on effectively. In first place, you can get the lovely VRRC jacket. These are all newly designed and new prizes for this season. And we'll go on to be prizes in the next couple of seasons as well as a first place trophy. In second place, you get the gloves. Now, they're karting gloves. You can't wear them in real life race cars. They're not exactly FIA, but they are probably good enough for karting if you have any karters out there, or if you're going to what's it called, Team Sport, I think it is, the local sort of indoor karting tracks. I believe they'll probably let you race in them as well. And a second place prize, and then you can get a polo or a t-shirt for third place, and a third place prize as well in terms of a trophy. All of the merch is able to be customized to have your name and number on it. So if Joel Lask ends up coming home with the victory, he could have a Joel Lask number, whatever number he is. Number 1, I suppose, if he really wanted to take the championship position. In 4th place at the VRRC, you get 2 hours sim practice at the Sim Centre. In 5th place, you get 1 hour sim practice at the VRRC Sim Centre. And the driver of the round gets the lovely little medal and a bit of a commemorative, well done, pat on the back for doing the best in that particular week. If you're wondering where all the big prizes are coming, they are the likes of the camera simulation wheel and the Aegon display and all that sort of thing. They are in our next championship, which will be the touring cars, return of the touring cars, I'm excited to say. Right, I believe that's all she wrote in terms of the prelude to tonight's finale. So it's about that time, qualifying's just ticked over, that we have a look at the Sugo track and the GT500 car, all thanks and courtesy of Lewis Edwards.
Hello and welcome to Sugo for the final round of the GT500 Championship. Braking for turn 1 as the tarmac ends on the left-hand side, down into second gear. Not getting too greedy with the exit curve there. Watch for the bump on the apex of 2, and then go back over to the right-hand side for 3. You want to use the grass to rotate the car so you can carry a little bit more speed through there. We go back down to second gear for hairpin corner. Important to get a good slingshot out of here. Short shifting up to third for this little S curve here. Then we've got a small bit of time to breathe before high point corner, 90-degree right-hander. Don't get too greedy with the apex and exit curbs. Now into rainbow corner, got a big straight after this. You want to focus on getting a really good exit here, which we do nicely. Now you've got some time to breathe after the very high pace sector 1. as we're coming towards the final part of the lap now. You need to brake slightly earlier than you think for horseback corner. Drift to the apex as much as you can under brake and try and get that car rotated early. Now we've got 2 quick left-handers for SP in and out. Just don't get too greedy on the curbs all throughout this couple of corners. And now we're heading towards the final corner. There's a very big bump mid-corner. You'll see the hands jolt when we hit it about now, which means that you can't take too much speed through there, but just important to get a good exit for the final part. So we're now onto the home straight already, and that completes a very quick lap of Sugo.
Right, we are live indeed, and well, we've got about 13 minutes to go in qualifying. I have to say, Lewis, when looking at that track guide, I'd rather you than me trying to get the maximum out of that car, especially for demonstrative purposes, because that looked like one hell of a roller coaster.
Oh, it absolutely was, yeah. It's a real roller coaster of a track, this one. Sector 1 and kind of the first half of Sector 2, I think it is very tight and technical. You have to use every kind of technique in your arsenal to try and get the car around the corners as quickly as you can, especially in the Honda, which doesn't like the corners. It's much happier down the back straight and maybe through the final corner where the speeds are a bit higher. But yeah, the speed begins to build up as you go round the lap. And then you can see from Joel here, we've got a really long, high-speed final corner to round out the lap. And then a big run up the main straight, which will be where most of the overtaking and slipstreaming will be done, I think. And Joel has looked mighty in the practice server so far.
He has. He's been looking pretty impenetrable, to be honest. His lap times have been unreal, but it all comes down to qualifying. You have to do it within the last 15 minutes, obviously, and then racing is a whole different kettle of fish. I like the little graphic we've got down at the bottom. Now, Lewis is not only a bit of a whiz in the commentary box these days, he's also the man behind the broadcast and behind all the graphics and everything like that. And Lewis, I have to say, I'm enjoying the fact that we got the brake and the throttle chase down there in the bottom left. If anybody out there is wondering what on earth is going on with that graphic at the bottom left-hand side and what are all the wavy lines and everything like that, well, the green lines are your throttle chases. We see a driver, I think that's Andy Carroll, in the tie wall to the left-hand side. So if the line for the green is at the top of that little graphic, which it like currently is right now, it's a bit like a heartbeat sensor, this thing, that means they're on full throttle. If it drops down to the bottom, it means the throttle is off, and it works the same for the brake. So if the brake is off, so if they're going in a straight line, you're likely to see the brake on the floor of that little graphic, and if they hit the brakes to go into a corner, a hairpin or something really sharp, then they'll probably hit the brakes to 100%, and that'll go to the very top. And the interesting thing for that is, as drivers, we can use that as a bit of a way to learn about how best to apply the throttle, apply the brake and everything like that. And quite a lot of the times, that's where the speed is actually made up, is how you actually apply the brake. A lot of driving is done in the feet rather than in the hands, especially when getting the car turned, which doesn't really always make sense. But that's a bit of a lesson for another day. I'll stop rambling about it. I do just really enjoy seeing these top-level sim racers and how they actually apply their sort of pressure through the feet on that bottom left-hand side. But I'll stop geeking out because Joel Lask has just gotten the quickest of anybody by the 15.1 minute, 15.9. And I have to say, Lewis, that's only 7/100ths of a second slower than he managed in all week in the practice server, isn't it? So we were saying, can he do it in the last 15 minutes before we start going racing? The answer is absolutely.
Yeah, he needed that first little lap to get the heat in the tyres, get the tyres up to the right working window, and then he set 3 purple sectors and a lap that's quicker than anybody else has gone all week, and there we go. Just straight out the box. That's what you find with these top-level drivers we're seeing now. They've done so many laps of practice, and Joel did, I think we saw 150 laps of this track in practice for today, and with that kind of practice under their belts, they can just go out and nail the lap instantly. It's much more testing than you'd get in a real car, so that's one of the many advantages of sim racing, is you really can get into that rhythm quite quickly, and then it's just a case of remembering what you did to do those laps, and then there you go.
Yeah, you don't have to get over the fear of crashing and dying, do you? In a sim rig. If you are crashing and dying, you're doing something very wrong in a sim. Julie Bradshaw, Adrian Felders, and John Music, thank you very much for tuning in, and hello back. It's nice to see Julie and Adrian, even though Kyle isn't racing here and supporting the stream and the channel. So a big thank you to you guys for your continued support, and hopefully we'll see Kyle and the rest of the HFT boys rejoining us in a couple of weeks' time, maybe for that endurance race that we were speaking about last week as well. We've got a little bit of a smaller grid here for the final round, but Lewis, it has to be said, to learn a new track, to learn these cars, they're very difficult cars to drive, and then go out there and completely learn a new track that we're likely not going to drive in the Touring Car Championship or anything like that anytime soon. And people have lives, people have families and stuff like that. It's fairly understandable if not everybody can make it. Yeah, absolutely. Well, given that the Touring Car Championship features all European tracks, we're definitely unlikely to see Sugo on the calendar. But yes, I think it's one we'll look at for the future. There's so many great different circuits around the world that we have to choose from. It's incredibly difficult to narrow it down to 8. Like, if we combined all the ideas that we had for just the Touring Car Championship, knowing it was only going to be European, and all the different kind of soft requirements we had for what it should be roughly like, we'd have ended up with double the calendar if we'd put all of our suggestions in. And Knockhill still wouldn't have been on there because Rich hates it. Yes, Rich has a special hatred for running Knockhill in races due to how it's gone in previous times, with how, let's face it, it's quite luck-based with the chicanes, unless you have a car with incredible suspension and dampers, and then you've really only got the final corner as an opportunity for ascend, and it usually ends up in contact. So we tend to stick to tracks where overtaking opportunities are a bit easier and a bit more frequent. Well, I enjoyed racing Knockhill, but to be fair, it wasn't real life, wasn't it? I haven't actually driven it on the Sims, so maybe he's right. Maybe with all of experience in running Sim Championships, he has a point. Anyway, Joel Last still tops the time, but Oda Mazzurio has got into second place, Eric Axelson in third. And what do we know? What's in common with all three of those drivers who are currently in the top 3? They are the top 3 in the championship as well. So, and Craig Curtis, to be fair, is 4th in the championship. Josh Martin, I believe, is 6th in the championship. He's 5th on circuit. Am I getting that right? Yes. Paul Laramie is the driver who's out of position. He's 7th at the moment. Rich Hayden is currently in 6th place. I was wondering why he wasn't having a go at me in our Discord channel for my comments on Knockhill. It's because he's out there actually driving. But Josh is currently going round. None of them are setting any quicker times, though, are they, Lewis? Is this potentially because we're seeing a bit of a changeover here in terms of not track state, but tyres? Maybe people coming in for maybe they have to get out there and warm their new tyres up after coming in and pitting. Yeah, I think we're kind of in the mid-session lull where people who have gone for a longer first run, their tyres have just gone past their best, so they're pushing on and it's just not yielding the same lap time for them. And then we've got people who have pitted for after a slightly shorter first qualifying stint. They're just on their kind of first build lap to get the temperature in the tyres. And with the way the tyres work, they don't actually reach 100% grip immediately at the pits. You have to give them maybe a lap and a half, I think it is around here, at full speed to work them into that 100% tyre grip range, which is why you don't usually see improvements on the first lap like we did with Joel. He then got the tyres in the window and then put out 3 purple sectors for that time, which is still currently comfortably good enough for fastest. Yes, there's lots of things to think about when you're a driver, isn't there? It's not just go out there, turn the wheel, and hope that you're going to get a fast time. There's first of all, you have to learn the track, you have to learn the cars, you have to know that the fastest lines and everything like that, and then you have to be able to get the best grip out of your tyres. And honestly, tyre management is a complete wizard's chess at some points, as Oda Mazzurio may well be finding out, because he goes grass cutting with his tyres, and that'll again change the temperatures and change the sort of feeling on the top of the tread as well. So yeah, it's a very accurately demonstrated on Assetto Corsa. It's a very good feel, and that's why we like to use it. It's not like other driving simulators where, let's say the Formula 1 game, where it's just basically complete luck half the time of how your tyres might feel. AC actually demonstrates it very, very well, models it very, very well. Adrian's out here eating hot dogs, apparently, Lewis, and we haven't been invited for them. I'm
that's-
definitely insulted.
The betrayal is unbelievable. Can't believe you've done this, Adrian.
Hot dogs and VRRC. Well, that sounds like my kind of night. Where's the hot dogs? I'll get on it, Rich. It's his responsibility to feed us hot dogs, isn't it? Not Adrian's, to be fair. Paul Laramie's going a little bit quicker. He's in 8th place at the moment, which means somebody has jumped up to 6th. That's Chris Blakey, currently in the pits. He's now ahead of Rich Hayden and Paul Laramie. Odin Missouri is going slightly faster. His throttle and brake traces are looking more like a heartbeat sensor than they are actually throttle and brake traces, but it seems to be going pretty well for him. I think he's just delved off the track a little bit there. He does that corner a lot better than he did in the previous lap anyway, because he didn't go off the circuit. But his sector 2 is there or thereabouts. Not really much to write home about. I don't think he's going to be able to catch up to Joel, but I think you mentioned it when Joel set his time, Lewis, that no one else in the entire weeks-long practice session was able to set a 1:15 apart from Joel. And Odin certainly isn't fast enough on that lap. He was 3.5 tenths off of his best, which is 1:16.45. Eric Axelson, 1:16.6 effectively, and making him about 6/10 of a second down the road from Joel Lasky. It could turn in threatening slightly to be a bit of looking like a bit of a procession, isn't it, for Joel in the first race at least?
Yeah, well, Joel usually gets good starts as well, which is not so good for his rivals. They're going to have to hope he forgets how to do those good starts, which is not going to be very easy, because I know the technique, but I'm not going to reveal it to everyone just yet. I'll reveal it in the middle of race 2, so nobody can use it. But I know Joel won't forget how to do his starts because of how he does them. Not an overly complicated trick, but gets the job done.
Is it clutch up and accelerator down?
Maybe. We'll find out.
See.
We'll find out.
That's the mistakes I made. I kept that clutch down. Yeah, you see. But yes. Also, apparently National Hot Dog Day, Lewis. I had a pizza for dinner, and I feel like I'm doing it wrong.
I had a Chinese, so I'm doing it even more wrong.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. We need to sort this one out. I think we need to coordinate a little bit better, don't we?
Yeah.
2 minutes to go, and, Josh Martin's going a little bit faster in Sector 1. His Sector 2 isn't much to write home about, though. He's about 3 tenths off the lights. Oh, no, he's just gone third. He's just gone the third. My apologies. I was looking for someone else. I was looking at Craig Curtis's Sector 2, actually. Josh Martin, actually, to be fair, it wasn't much of a Sector 2 anyway, but Sector 1 and 3 was certainly quite quick, and he puts himself ahead of his teammate, Eric Axelson, which is not exactly what Eric wanted to happen for the championship, is it?
No, it isn't. Well, it depends which item of VRRC clothing Eric is hoping for.
Well, that's true, actually.
So we never know. He might be hoping for a jacket. Being in Sweden, he might be needing the jacket more than it's the gloves for second. So maybe he needs some gloves. Well, do you know what? Let's check the Zoom. We'll see if he's got a pair of gloves. He hasn't. He hasn't got a pair of gloves. That's what he's doing. He's just saving it for second so he can get a pair of gloves.
Well, maybe the gloves is what he needs to grip the wheel to get in that extra half a second to catch up to Joel Lask. Maybe that's what we're needing from Eric Axelson. To be fair, I have the jacket and I have the T-shirt as well for VRRC because of the aforementioned events that we do. Obviously, we like to be kitted up and uniformed up, so we're advertising them. And I have to say, they are both very nice. I think it's Delta Racewear that we've been using for the merch and everything like that, and they're fantastic, to be honest. It's really good, really comfy, very warm, and as I said, the gloves, which Rich only has one pair of at the moment, otherwise I would have probably nabbed one in my back pocket. They feel really, really nice, and obviously they're the ones that someone might win it. It's likely to be Joel, Odin, or Eric. Is the fight in the first race as we tick down the timer ticks to 0. Eric Axelson, this will be his final lap. No, he just about got over the line to start one more. Odin's Odin's qualifying is finished, and Craig Curtis, his qualifying is finished, as well as a few other people coming across the line. Are we likely to see an Odin versus Eric style battle in race number 1? And Joel's championship really relies on race number 2. Is that what you're expecting here, Lewis?
Well, given Joel has just gone a lower 0.9 now with another purple third sector, I think it's only a 5-point deficit. So even with that plus fastest lap, he's then just 1 point behind. So if he finishes a place ahead, then it's actually in Joel's hands at the moment. It's similar to how Josh Martin won his championship. He just came alive at that final round in Brands Hatch with a lighter car, and that made the difference for him. But Eric is the last car to come across the line, and he is not improving in the first couple of sectors. Not sure if he's going to peel into the pits or not. It doesn't look like it's going to be troubling his best lap. No, he's backed off and is slowing down, so it is going to be Joel on pole.
It will be, and my exclamation of shock earlier on wasn't because anything happened in the qualifying. It's actually because I just realised Andy's not here, and it's a championship finale, and he's the one who does normally the maths because he has a spreadsheet with all this sort of thing going on in it. But he isn't here. Lewis is doing the broadcast, and he's just down to me, which is going to be utterly terrifying. So I have a notepad, and I don't have a pen. So this short advert break, I'm going to run into my house, grab a pen. You guys should go to the toilet or grab a cup of tea, because we'll be having a chat to our pole sitter and potential championship contender, Joel Lask, in a couple of seconds. And welcome back, everybody. I have a pen, I have a drink, and luckily I have a pole position, man. And Joel Lask to chat to as well. Joel, that was a pretty astonishing lap. And I know it probably feels like the norm for you because you've done about 3 or 4 laps in 1 minute 15 area, 1 minute 15.9 area. But compared to everybody else, that is absolutely sublime. How are you feeling?
Yeah, good to be fair. I needed those points. I need to catch Eric as much as possible. But yeah, no, it was a good lap. We hooked it up, we got it all together, and yeah, managed to put it on pole. So good stuff.
I was going to say, you managed to secure yourself that one lovely point, which means you're only 4 behind Eric Axelson now. And having a look where Eric's qualified, I believe he just pipped his teammate Josh Martin, according to my screen anyway. So he's still within the top 3. So even if you finish like this, it'll be a 5-point sway, which means it'll put you on top of the championship. And it looked like me and Lewis were sort of guessing if you were just going to be able to drive away with this. Or are you fearing in the race that Sugo is going to be a little bit harder?
No, I think this will be a more tricky race than that. This track is really difficult to hold on to the car, so we'll see what happens, but hopefully the guys behind me start battling and I can sort of break away. But yeah, we'll have to see what we can do on this one.
Well, fastest laps come into play, obviously. 3 points for the fastest lap. Qualifying is only 1. So even if you can get that lovely breakaway or anything like that, or even if it goes slightly wrong, you're confident that you can turn that qualifying pace into race pace and get out there and maybe set that fastest lap as well?
Yeah, I mean, race pace is good, so going off of quali times, I should be able to pip it, but it just depends on the tyres and how the race goes. I don't know if people are going to be right up behind me or whatnot, so yeah, we'll see what happens, I suppose. Send it.
Is the nerves, well, by the sounds of you just saying send it, I'm going to guess the answer to this question, but are the nerves there at all, or do you feel like a bit of an underdog? Because obviously, from our perspective, you would argue that Odin is the underdog. You, with that qualifying pace, are probably the favourite now, or do you not look at it that way?
I mean, I've got it all to lose, right? The previous 2 special events that we've done, I've managed to win, so I've got to try and retain that crown. So it's all for me to lose and all for everyone else to win. So, yeah, a little bit.
I was going to say, I think you were the one a couple of rounds ago that actually enlightened us to that fact. Does that mean that's been playing on your mind even before you got into this championship?
I mean, not so much. A couple of rounds in, yeah, maybe. But yeah, it'd always be nice to take a win and another championship from this and lead on into touring cars after this. So we'll see. Let's see how this goes, and yeah, let's see what happens.
I was going to say, just before we let you go as well, there are obviously, 3 for 3 NASCAR trucks and potentially the GT500. Are we counting the 90-minute endurance race in 2 weeks' time? Is that going to be on? Or are you going to count it if you win it and don't count it if you don't?
I'll decide on the night, I suppose. Endurance probably isn't my strong point, so
is that because
yeah,
you have to work with Scott? Or
luckily he's not here. It's amazing what happens when I'm not racing with him. But yeah, I don't know. We'll play it by ear and see how it goes in the endurance as well. But let's get this over and done with first, I suppose.
Well, I'm not going to let you focus on getting this over and done with just yet, because I am going to ask you about the touring cars. You signing up?
I've already signed up, so yeah.
Oh, music to my ears, Joel. Can't wait.
See the return.
Fantastic stuff. Well, good luck for race number 1. Obviously, quite a bit of pressure, but I'm sure you'll be able to handle it, Joel. Well done on that qualifying.
Nice one. Cheers, mate.
And that was Joel Lask jumping into the commentary box to have a quick chat with us, Lewis. And I don't know if you could tell, but I was trying to lean on him a little bit there to sort of maybe get him a little bit worried and a little bit shaky into things, because he's looking fairly unstoppable with times like that.
Yeah, just try and put some thoughts in his mind about bottle it, Joel, so we have a championship fight. But just a little bit, so we have it interesting. Don't want one person running away with it. We want to see as much action as possible. But yeah, I think it's going to be tough to stop Joel today. He has got 45 kilos of ballast in the car, so I wouldn't rule out tyre wear and tyre overheating coming into play towards the end of the race. For me, turn 1 is the big kind of factor for this race. Is can Joel get through T1 first, or can Odin or Eric or even Josh launch something on him to try and make the difference happen on lap 1?
I was going to say, are we looking at overtaking opportunities? Are we looking at turn 1 as a possibility? Obviously, normally turn 1 in pretty much every circuit is always going to be opportunity, because you had that lovely long start-finish straight, don't you? But is it a little bit too quick? Twin ring Motegi was a little bit difficult because it was nearly flat, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think turn 1 is definitely an opportunity in this. You've got to be brave. I think you've got to be brave anywhere around here to make a move.
Yeah.
But yeah, going into turn 1, I think, is your best shot. Second best opportunity would be at the hairpin down the end of the back straight. I think that's where we're more likely to see some moves potentially. It's going to be tricky, but well, that's the fun of it. Drivers who are out of position have got to be brave. Those who have won themselves some good track position in quali, they've got the advantage of being in front, and hopefully we'll see them cross over a bit here and there, and we'll get a good race.
That's the obviously we've all got our fingers crossed for it. Now I've just seen that Josh Martin has disconnected and reconnected to the server, so I'm hoping he can get on to his grid position. Looking like everybody is there, so I think he is in his 4th place. I'd actually forgotten, or I missed the fact that Eric just out-qualified him in the end, because at one point Josh did pip himself ahead into that second row. But no, it is Joel Lask, and we've only got 40 seconds to go. Sorry, I'll list off the qualifying positions and the starting order for race number 1. Joel Lask on pole position, Odin Mazuria in second place, Eric Axelson in third, and joining him is, well, I believe it'll be Josh Martin. Craig Curtis in fifth, Rich Hayden in sixth, Chris Blakey in seventh, with Paul Laramie in eighth, Andy Carroll in ninth, and Kenny Press rounding out the top 10. And then we've got, well, I believe... Oh, no, it says Lewis Edwards in 11th place, but of course that's you, isn't it, Lewis? So you'll be in the pit lane by this point. And as the lights come on, the engine notes rise. And for the penultimate time this season, the GT500 Championship is about to get underway. Who's it going to be off the line? Joel Lask wants to get a nice clean start, but Odin Mazuria wants to make it interesting if he can. Joel Lask does get a decent start, but not all the way past. He misses the apex. Here comes Odin Mazuria. No, Joel Lask holds on to it. Going into turn 2, he's going to be streets ahead of everybody else. And Eric Axelson versus Josh Martin, the Lean Green Racing team, very much at each other's throats, going door to door and just about sorting out between themselves. I don't think Josh Martin is going to try and get in his teammates' way as if he can help it, because obviously they are in very different championship battles. But as they come up towards the midfield section and going on to that back straight, it is going to be Joel Lask who leads the way by a good 0.8 of a second to Odin Mazuria, then Eric Axelson, Josh Martin, and then Rich Hayden round out the top 5, and they space each other out quite nicely here.
Yeah, they have, but Joel has done exactly what he needed to do. He ran in very deep into turn 1 to make sure that Odin couldn't get past him and close off the corner. It was very smart driving from Joel, left him just enough space to go side by side, but managed to make sure that Odin couldn't make the pass. Unfortunately, that is probably going to mean we're going to get slightly less action for the leads, because you can see Joel's disappearing at the moment. But Eric appears to be closing on Odin. He's about 0.3 back. We could see how the overtaking is into turn 1 here.
Yeah, obviously we're looking for that slipstream. Now, we got hinted at that it was a very powerful slipstream, and in fact, Eric Axelson completely misses the apex, completely misses the corner effectively, and well, all that extra speed that he may have had from getting into the toe of Odin Mazuria just forced him wide. It didn't really do anything to help him, as Josh Martin also misses the apex. We commented quite a lot at Suzuka, Lewis, that these cars are hard to drive. Well, we've got a combination here where the track is hard to drive and the cars are hard to drive. Now, I know we've had 3 or 4 weeks now in these cars, but that doesn't exactly make it easy. Even if we were in an MX-5 or something nice and simple, a touring car, which these drivers now know are, you know, like the back of their hand, it would still be rather a challenge, wouldn't it? So are we likely to see quite a few mistakes? And maybe that's going to be the more telling nature of this race than say, slipstreaming or any other tactics.
I think it's very possible, yes, because these cars, more than any other we've driven in a long time, punish mistakes very harshly. That's one thing we've noted throughout this kind of special event, and we've been actively trying to negate for touring cars in terms of mistakes are punished, but in different ways. So one of the ways that mistakes are really badly punished in these is curb usage. If you hit a curb you're not really supposed to, the car will just send you off the track, because the suspension will hit the bump stops, which means it's not compressing anything. So the car bounces completely, not just the sprung mass of the car, which is a bit tricky to get your head around, but basically the suspension does nothing, so the whole car just bounces straight up into the air. Like
driving a go-kart, isn't it?
Yes.
Over a curb.
Oh, Josh Martin!
Josh Martin's gone round, as we were talking about how difficult these things are to drive. Josh Martin goes, well, I don't know if he hit a curb. It didn't look like it. I think the rear end just let go, and it's still letting go as he tries to get back onto the circuit, and he's in plumb dead last. He's in 10th position behind Kenny Press now, and, well, that's not going to hurt. That's not going to do his championship any good. Eric Axelson's just set purple sector 1, by the way. His teammate, which maybe Josh was trying to follow it. Maybe that's why he ended up going a little bit wayward. But that's not going to help. And Josh Martin just outside the top 5. He was 10 points back on Paul Laramie, who wasn't having a particularly brilliant time. And he's DNF'd. He's gone back to the pits. So what the nerve. I did notice in his qualifying that he had about 3,000 ping at one point. I wonder if that had anything to do with it.
Yeah, his webcam's also froze a little bit. No, I think it's a game crash, because I can see his screen has frozen. If we if we go to the zoom, we can see Eric, but we'll now swap over to Josh. His game wasn't moving anywhere, so I think it might have frozen ever so slightly there. So yeah, you can see the ping indicator very close to his name has gone up into the red. It might be a little tricky to see on the stream, but it's very in the red, which is not good. It says 4,800 at the moment, which is well, for context, Odin Mazuria's is 9. Joel's is 11. You know, that's the kind of thing you're expecting. But one thing we weren't expecting is Joel hasn't ran away at all. Odin is, in fact, closer now with 2 purple sectors under his belt on this lap than he was at the end of the first lap. So they're really pushing on. In fact, Chris Blakey down in 8th, who doesn't usually get much of a mention for quick times yet, as he's still getting up to speed in VRRC. Purple sector 2, so he's obviously loving that middle sector.
Yeah, I'm actually, you know, what I like as well about this particular championship is the fact that there is no push to pass or anything like that. So what you see is what you get, basically. If someone's setting purple times or purple sectors, it's because they've earned it. It's not because they've pressed a button 3 times on a particular lap and managed to get it fastest lap. No, they've actually earned that sort of... I know there's tactics and everything. You do earn it still, even if there is push to passes, but you can be in dead last and you know, drop off the back of people by 5 seconds just to use 10 push to passes to get the fastest lap and get extra 3 points, can't you, if you got no way of advancing? But Chris Blakey, really very impressive, although he has just had his sector 2 taken away from him by Josh Martin, who is just putting a purple sector 2. Who are we focusing on at the moment here? Is this still Chris Blakey? It is, in fact, isn't it? Yes, he went a little bit grass cutting, trying to chase down Andy Carroll. How is the gap? Odin Mazuria, 0.3 of a second, 0.4 of a second, is just leaking out as I just started to focus on him once more. Maybe made a little bit of a mistake to Joel Lask, but Joel not having it all his own way. They were operating in the 1 minute 16.827. That is Joel Lask's fastest time, so 1 minute 16.8, just to keep it simple. Odin's is a 10th quicker, and Eric Axelson's just set a time that is pretty much equal to it as well. So the top 3 going at very, very equal pace as it currently stands.
Yeah, I don't wonder if Joel is just trying to control it at the moment. And I wonder if he's just got that fastest lap in the back of his mind, because we'll probably see fastest laps being set right at the end when the fuel's burnt off a lot. So he might just be saving his tyres, make sure they don't wear down too much so he has a good chance to go for that at the end of the race. But even with Eric down in 3rd, that's definitely going to be most of that points advantage turned over. In fact, I think even without the fastest lap for Eric or Joel, I think Joel will potentially take over the lead of the championship, depending on how points are awarded.
By 1 point, I believe, in my calculations. He's 4 points back after qualifying, so I've included the 1 point for qualifying. And if Joel wins, Eric comes 3rd, which it currently sits at, yeah, he'll get 5 points from this race. So he should go into a 1 point championship lead and overtake Eric Axelsson.
Oh, the timing has had a bit of a glitch there. My heart skipped a beat there because it put Odin ahead of Joel. Yeah. So I thought all kinds of chaos had happened there. But wow, yes, not quite the chaos we were imagining. No, Odin's closed a little bit. They were pretty much even on the last lap. It was a difference of, what's that, like 14 milliseconds, I think it is, between them. So
it is indeed. Good maths.
Incredibly close between these two. I think Odin's made a little mistake in this first sector, though, or Joel's just had a bit of a brilliant one. Yeah, Odin's made a little mistake there. I think Eric has also followed him in that mistake because they've both lost out by about 0.8 to Joel in that first sector. Adrian says, thinking we need a number 77 on the grid. We're not sure our internet. Okay, well, I race 78, so you could just like scribble out the 8 and put a 7 on my car in the pit lane if you'd like. Don't know anybody who runs 77. We've got Andy Carroll running 76. So between me and Andy, we've got you covered either side there. So yeah,
we don't need a number 777, that's for sure. I'm not having what's his name? Oh my god, what's his name? Oh, it's blanked. As I started that sentence, he blanked out my name. Oh, the one everybody loves in touring cars. I can't remember. He's just returned to touring cars today, in fact, with Team Hard. But yeah, it's oh my God, help me out, Lewis. This is excruciating all of a sudden.
Dare I say it?
Michael Creasy. There we go. He's the number 77 and number 777 if he had his way, if they allow 3-digit numbers. Right, now I finally got that out of my head. That was painful. Joel Lask is pulling away, isn't it? Well, he's slightly pulling away. He's just got a purple sector 1, but Odin is not far behind with the green sector 1 as well. Odin's really pulling it out here. I have to say, I don't think Joel is really hooking this together as much as we thought. I don't think it's necessarily the fact that Odin is 1,000 times quicker all of a sudden. It's more that Joel can't quite get near his 1 minute 15 lap times. In fact, the best he's been able to do is a 1 minute 16.8. So he's about nearly a second slower than his qualifying times. And whether he can turn the wick up a little bit later on in the race was yet to be seen. Maybe if Odin starts putting the pressure on him. After all that hard work, though, it's a bit of a shame to see Odin drop off the back. We were sort of hoping that it would spice things up a bit, weren't we, Lewis?
Yeah, we were. I think it's just beginning to spread out now. They're beginning to stretch the legs. The lap times are slowly coming down to a 16.5 from Odin now, which I believe is the fastest lap of the race as it stands. So at that point, not going to Joel or Eric, but we're seeing the lap times drop pretty much every lap at the moment. So I don't think that's going to stand for much longer. So we won't comment on that until we get right towards the end of the race. Shout out to Rich, actually, up there in 4th. Completely...
Yeah.
Not
normally
spoken about, Rich.
Now.
Yeah, he's normally had a bit of an issue. To quote himself, he's normally spun out in anger at a car he can't pass on his own. But this time he's got some clear air between himself and Eric. You can see them up there in the distance. And he's withstanding pressure from our latest VRRC winner, Craig Curtis.
I was going to say, if he normally spins out because he was angry that he can't get past someone. Not angry at the other person. He's just got he's just short-tempered when it comes to trying to get past people, I guess. I don't know. But he's now he's the opposite way around, isn't it? Because he's the driver that the driver behind is trying to get past, isn't he? And whether Rich can hold on to that defensive formation is yet to be seen. But he's done a pretty decent job of it. Obviously, slightly aided by the fact that Josh Martin fell off the racetrack earlier on. But he is up into 4th place. I don't think, well, he's got 5 seconds to catch Eric Axelson. Don't think that's going to happen. So podium's probably not really on the cards unless they start taking each other out. But a little race here between what looks like 2 teammates. They aren't actually 2 teammates. Craig Curtis doesn't actually race for VRRC, but he does like the liveries. So he decided, I think, Lewis, you were telling me this, weren't you? That he just wanted to have the same livery because he really liked it. And he's pulled right up to the back of Rich Hayden, who may well have made a little bit of a mistake. And Craig Curtis has decided to try and take some kind of advantage of that. He's within 0.4 of a second. Late on the brakes, nice and smooth on the accelerator as well. He's trying to get up that hill right into the gearbox of Rich Hayden here. This is the closest battle we've got on circuit, but I have to say, shout out to Odin. He is catching Joel Lask because the gap has halved since we really left that battle. 1.5 seconds down to 0.8. And Odin with a purple sector 2 as well to his name. So the lap times, as Lewis has said, are tumbling, but we're now watching Craig Curtis to really show where drivers can actually try and make a move, Lewis, because we were theorising at the beginning of this the evening. Well, this maybe the proof is in the pudding. Are they going to be able to do it on the first corner? Because Craig Curtis is definitely close enough to think about it.
I think so. Craig set up the exit really nicely there. I think he's going to be most of the way alongside Rich. Oh, they got a bit close there. Oh, Rich has let him go, so we're never going to know.
Yeah, he did let him go a little bit there, didn't he? That was a bit of a shame, really. But maybe Rich just wanted to finally finish a race or something. I'm not entirely sure. But that was a bit of a shame because I think Craig Curtis was going to have a really late lunge anyway. But there was sort of a move inside, then a move back to him, and then a back move inside as well. But yeah, didn't really test him that hard, did he? Unfortunately. But Rich still in the top 5. Craig Curtis, as Lewis said, our latest VRRC winner of race 2 last week. He's not going to get a race win here, but he's certainly operating well in the top 4, and that'll do his championship the world of good because he is in 4th place in the championship, very close to Paul Laramie. Only 4 points between Craig, who's in 4th, and Paul Laramie, who's in 5th. So Craig will want to score as many points as possible to stay ahead of Paul, who is running currently in 6th. So that extra place he just gained on Rich, very, very important in indeed. Looking elsewhere, Odin is now back to 1.5 seconds down on Joel Lask. It just seems that mistakes keep creeping in everywhere, don't they?
Yeah, they're pushing each other to the limit now. They're dropping Eric before Eric was comfortably able to hang on to them. So I think they were both doing a bit of management for that first kind of phase of the race. And now they've really begun to put the hammer down. They're now down into Joel's on a 16.6 now, which is a whole second quicker than what Eric has managed on the last lap. So really putting the hammer down out front at the moment. But one thing for the championship, Paul Laramie currently hangs on to 5th place for the final prize on offer. And with Josh Martin down in 9th, he is still on the lead lap. So he's going to have lost a chunk of points to Paul at the moment, but he is going to be on reverse grid pole position as it stands.
You're going to make me keep an eye out on the top 5, aren't you, Lewis? I was only keeping an eye out the top 3, but yes, Craig Curtis on 102. I forgot that we had prizes down to 5th place. Paul Laramie on 98. And as you said, I don't think we're going to see Josh Martin really make any kind of impact in this race. And to be honest, I think that's probably going to be his championship done if Paul Laramie scores a decent amount of points, which he should be scoring 16 out of this current race. Actually, no, he's in 6th place, isn't he? He'll be scoring 15 in this current race, whereas Josh will only be scoring about 10, if that. So yeah, it's going to be very, very sort of advantageous to Paul Laramie here, sitting in that top 5 position for the time being. 4 minutes to go. Not much going on out there, apart from Eric Axelson sitting in a purple sector 3 and thinking he's going to have to try and get on with this a little bit. He just set his best time of the race, which was his last lap, finally cracking into the 1 minute 16s. 1 minute 16.6, oh well, 1 minute 16.7 really, is roughly the same sort of pace that Joel Lask has been able to muster, and about 0.3 of a second down at Odin Missouri's best times as well. So they're all much of a muchness. Everybody else in the 1 minute 17s, 1 minute 18s. Rich Hayden, 1 minute 18.0 is his current, is his last time actually. 17.2 is his best time, but yeah, fastest lap of the race so far going to Odin, which will give him a lovely 3 points, and he is still an outside shout for this championship, Lewis.
Yeah, he is. I think at the moment it's going to be Joel's in the prime seat, but Odin versus Eric is going to be quite interesting. It's all going to come down to this second race. But with the drivers in this order, it means they're just going to close up even more. So we're going to have an even closer fight on our hands, which is really good to see. We see Chris Blakey closing on Andy Carroll. So maybe we'll see a move into turn 1. We'll see what kind of exit they get from the final corner. Oh, that was sideways for Chris there.
Yeah, you don't really want to be doing that. If you go sideways, you're not going forwards, as they say when they coach you. And Chris Blakey, unfortunately, ruining his run somewhat. But you did say to me, whilst you were doing that track guide, Lewis, that the final corner is basically death, isn't it? It's so sketchy and so hard to get a clean exit out of.
Yeah, there's a giant bump in the middle of the final corner. Just as you're about to open the steering lock up to get a nice good run onto that big long main straight, there's just this huge bump in the middle of the corner. There's no way to get around it. It covers the whole track seemingly, and it just unsettles these cars so much. So it's really difficult to find the right balance. So if you've got to leave some time on the table so that when you hit that bump, you're not then pushed over the limit. So it's a really difficult balancing act, but it looks like the drivers have done a very good job so far of making sure that they don't get caught out by it at the moment. And yeah, as you've alluded to earlier, Odin's still in possession of that fastest lap point at the moment.
3 points.
Ah, yes, it's 3 points, of course, yeah.
Which makes it all the more important that Odin has it, actually, because it goes from a 2-horse race to a 3-horse race. So Odin goes from being a bit of an outside shout to actually scoring more points than Joel Lask, I believe. It's scoring roughly the same, actually. So it goes to very, very close indeed.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting when we've done the maths on how it's going to play out, and then we've got a whole race to go through. But Josh Martin's just set a purple sector 2 on his pursuit of any kind of more points where possible.
He's a lap down though, isn't he?
Ooh, is he? He's not yet at the moment, I don't believe.
On my timing screen, it says 1 lap on the gap.
We're getting 2 different answers. On the tower that you see on the stream, it says that Josh Martin's on the same lap as the leaders, but on
So
the,
you're right. He is. My bad. Yeah, I'm confusing things, but he is definitely on the same lap.
In your defense, it did say plus a lap on the gap on the live timing screen. So that's why we were getting a bit confused, because we were getting two different answers. But Josh Martin has now taken that fastest lap point away with a purple final sector to go with that purple middle sector. So he's down to a 16.3. So he's obviously thinking, I need to get this fastest lap point to save Eric some points, because that's going to take 3 points away from Odin or Joel.
Yeah, no, that is a very good point. And the reason why he's one lap down, it said, is because he is so far behind everybody else, isn't he? He's a good 3/4 of a lap back. But yeah, he's coming up to the final couple of corners now. And if he can hold on to that fastest lap, that will be massive. Oh, who's just got off there? Oh, it was Andy Carroll, wasn't it, there? It's going grass cutting. Did you see what happened? Both of them were actually off the circuit. What on earth happened there, Lewis?
I don't know. I literally looked at the live timing as it happened. I think, judging that Chris has let Andy back through, I think maybe Chris has missed his braking point for the corner a bit there, and then has just tapped the back of Andy, which is why he went straight on, and then decided to let Andy through after they both recovered to the track. We're on the final lap now. Joel's about to win the race already.
Oh my God! Yes, we are. Oh my days! Yes, Joel Last will take the victory. Checker flag drops. I was so in tune. I was keeping an eye on those times so closely, wondering who's going to get the fastest lap time. I forgot that actually who's going to take the win is probably more important. And it's Joel Last. No surprise there, I believe. Pole position man goes from lights to flag with Oda Missouri coming across the line in second place. We had little spells where we thought maybe he could take the fight to Joel. Didn't quite happen. Little mistakes here there. We'll get his story in a couple of minutes' time. Eric Axelsson rounds out the podium. He's championship leader, well, he definitely was going into this first race. I don't think he's going to be anymore. Craig Curtis in fourth place after getting ahead of Rich Hayden about halfway through. And so Rich rounds out the top 5. We've got Paul Laramie, Andy Carroll, Chris Blakey, Josh Martin, and Kenny Press rounds out the top 10, which means Kenny Press will be on pole. Josh Martin will be alongside him on the front row of the grid for race number 2. We're going to have a chat to our podium sitters, Joel Lask, Oda Missouri, and Eric Axelsson in a couple of minutes' time, just after this very short break. .33. Welcome back, everybody, and we do have some podium sitters and 3 championship contenders to talk to as well. Actually, all 3 of the podium sitters are the 3 championship contenders. So this is going to be quite an interesting little interview to get them all in one room together, effectively, even if it is a virtual room. We're going to start off with our race winner. We've already had a chat to him because he got that pole position under his belt as well. And it's Joel Lask. Joel, a big congratulations on getting that victory. And you move into the lead of the championship by 1 shiny point to that pole position in qualifying, meaning that you are now ahead of Eric Axelsson going into the final race. And that I sort of was nudging you before, trying to see if you would crack under the pressure. You were having none of it. That was superb from you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It was actually much tougher to drive than I thought. Fortunately, I didn't get that fastest lap, which was a frustrating one, but I didn't want to push the car too much. I see the gap behind from Odin, and I didn't want to make any mistakes, so yeah, I thought I'd keep it clean on that one.
I was going to say, in terms of the gap to Odin, Well, Odin, I think, stepped up a little bit as well. He was slightly quicker in that than he was in qualifying, or at least consistency-wise. But you didn't seem to have quite the ultimate rate qualifying pace in that either. You're about half a second back. You couldn't seem to get anywhere near the 1 minute 15 again. What was that sort of down to? Did you have different fuel in or anything?
Yeah, I put a little extra fuel in, but I'd rather have too much than too little. And I'll stay the same for this one. But yeah, the car is just completely different with race fuel in. I mean, I have been quicker on race trim, but obviously there's a lot riding on this one, so I don't want to push it too far and end up binning it. So I thought, yeah, slow and steady wins the race on this one, and just make sure I finish first.
Well, it's finishing first in the next race is going to be slightly more difficult, isn't it? We do have slightly less cars than we usually do to get through. Obviously, we're only 10 here tonight, but we didn't see much overtaking it in that first race, meaning it's probably quite hard to do, to be honest. Have you sort of spotted anywhere you think might be able to do it?
No, not really. Probably last corner if I can get a better exit. But the wash on these cars is really, really bad. So you need to be at least like 6-7 tenths quicker than the car in front to actually be able to overtake them, really. But yeah, I suppose we'll just play it by ear, see how it goes, and if the opportunity arises, put the car there.
Well, apart from the drivers that we have in the interview box now, you probably are 6 or 7 tenths quicker than most of them. So we are expecting overtakes from you, Joel. Let's make it dramatic at least. Big congratulations to that race 1 victory and to taking the championship lead.
Cheers, Jack.
Right. Lewis, you have got our second place man, Odin Missouri, to chat to, I believe. I'm going to do some more maths.
Yeah, good luck with your maths, Jack. Odin,
thank you.
It's P2 for you. Was that a really tough race to follow, Joel?
Yeah, well, he's incredibly quick, so it's pretty hard to follow him. I think he managed his gap pretty well. I was putting a lot of pressure behind, but wasn't able to stay clean and stay consistent. So I tried to go for the fastest lap, which I did until I think Josh took it 1 or 2 laps before the end. So I tried again to take the fastest lap, and unfortunately binned the car in the, I think, last corner or just before. So yeah, Joel is incredibly quick. It's going to be interesting to see in race 2 how I can manage to follow him between the pack.
Was there an element of tyre management in your head, thinking that you might want to try and push for that fastest lap towards the end with the fuel burning off?
Yes, well, exactly. I tried to make the biggest gap possible between me and Eric during the race, so I could allow myself 1 or 2 laps at the end to try and get that fastest lap in the 3 points. But yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't able to do it.
Well, race 2, you're starting a bit further back this time. What's the plan?
Well, just try and go through the pack. It's a really tricky track. Especially the corners are pretty hard. No downforce in the corner, so it's it's pretty difficult. Sorry, but yeah, I'll try to get through and do my best.
Well, good luck for this second race, and we hope to be speaking to you at the end of the race. Well done.
Thanks, Lewis.
And now Jack has hopefully finished his maths and is catching up with our 3rd place finisher.
I have indeed, just about. I'm not sure they're right, but we'll go with it. Yes, we got Eric Axelson along in the commentary box, the last driver to have a chat to us. Eric, congratulations on that 3rd place. This isn't necessarily looking like your favourite track, I'll be honest. We've seen you go a little bit quicker previously. Is it just about trying to pick up those points now?
Yeah, I think you're right, Jack. Yeah, this track has been a real challenge for me. And yeah, it feels like I'm hiding the car a bit, and I was able to stay with Odin and Joel for like the first 3-4 laps, and then I lost it a little. So yeah, it's a real challenge.
You are now 2nd place in the championship, I'm sorry to say, but only by 1 point. a reverse grid race, you've been with us long enough now to know, so is Joel, to be fair, to know that anything can happen in a reverse grid. We're asking how they're going to carve through the field, or is it a case of survival? You're very smooth, you're normally very reliable in terms of not making mistakes as well. Are you expecting that a few drivers at the front of this field are going to potentially make a few mistakes and you're going to try and capitalize?
Yeah, I mean, on this track, I think it's gonna be mistakes. So I think you just have to spot the mistakes early from the other drivers and take the opportunity and try to zigzag my way through the field. That's the plan.
Yeah, it'll give you an opportunity to give a shout out to your teammate if you want for taking that fastest lap away from Odin.
Oh, I didn't see that, to be honest.
Yeah.
That was really impressive by Josh.
Yeah, no, he certainly did you a favour there. He did you a solid, and it was a very good lap as well, considering he was right at the back. Are you expecting him to, you've only got a minute left, but are you expecting him to potentially go from that front row of the grid and take the victory here?
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all, because he's really fast when everything... Sorry, I don't know. I mean, he's really fast, so yeah, he could do it.
Well, we'll certainly wait and see. Trying to take your mind off the championship battle there with a bit of a Josh Martin talk. But I'm going to put it back to you because I'm going to let you go. It's Eric, good luck for race number 2. Championship on the line. I'm sure you'll be able to handle it.
Thank you, Jack.
And Lewis, there we go. A chat to all 3 of our championship contenders. I like to try and push them a little bit, trying to push them off, maybe play a little bit of mind games, because at the end of the day, it's all entertainment for us, isn't it? And with only 30 seconds left to go, I'm going to put you to the test now. Who you backing?
Well, it won't be Josh Martin because he's not currently on the grid. So he's disconnected at some point, I think. Don't know what's happened there for Josh. But it's not going to be him. I'm going to back Joel Lask to do it. I think he's going to make the moves where it counts, and he's going to take the championship. Oh, he's back, just in time.
He is just in time, and we're about to go racing as well. No, he's gone again. It's going to be an absolute nightmare with Chris Blake. He gets a nightmare start, and it's horrendous from the start as well. This is not ideal, is it? As I don't even know who's gotten through. I think Chris Blakey has, is that? Yeah, Andy Carroll. I'm not entirely sure. There's more chaos in the background. Safety car is going to have to be deployed pretty much immediately here, I would say. But Rich Hayden is currently leading the race, so I'm sure he probably won't want to call the safety car. No, there we go. They're all going very slowly now. Lewis, I mean, that was just awful, wasn't it, in terms of a race start? There's nowhere normally we're asked to sort of sugarcoat it, but there's not much you can sugarcoat there, was there?
Yeah, that was chaotic, I think is the way we'll describe that. I think a lot of cars got very confused by Josh Martin's appearing and disappearing.
Yeah.
And when you've got that on the front row, trying to get around that, it's very difficult. I think Chris didn't get a very good start, so I think it was Paul Laramie had to try and go around him as well. So it's all a lot of difficult factors came together at once there, I think, is the nicest way we can put that. And what that means is Joel Lask is 3rd already.
Yes.
But Eric Axelson is 4th and Odin Miseria is 5th, so they are still line astern, ready to try and get this championship fight resumed as soon as Rich puts his foot down. I wonder if we're going to see the John Jones strategy of go to the line, or are we going to see him go early?
Well, we can see it on the throttle trace, actually,
we know,
can't we?
yeah.
So we're not waiting. So we're not waiting around. So he's going very slow. He's coasting now, isn't he? When is he going to he's going to do it as soon as, there we go, full throttle. He's going to do it as soon as he's confident he's got past that bump, I was about to say. And he actually gave it a little lift there, so I don't think he was quite past the bump, but he was making sure he didn't spin the rear wheels out. But Rich Hayden has restarted this race with Chris Blakey in 2nd place. A little bit of a rematch from earlier on. In fact, no, it wasn't. It was Craig Curtis. And here goes Craig Curtis, late on the brakes on Odin Miseria. Odin Miseria having to settle for losing a position here at the restart, and that 5th place being taken away from him. Joel Lask will have to get through Chris Blakey and Rich Hayden, and Eric Axelson will be hoping that he gets held up for as long as humanly possible, because ultimately, in terms of the championship, it is between Joel Lask and Eric Axelson now, and the only reason why Odin Missouri could really win it is if those two bid each other off effectively. And Rich is not going to be giving away this race lead without a fight. You can be assured of that. I know we saw him give up the place to Craig Curtis earlier on. And Chris Blakey certainly doesn't want to give it up. And here goes Eric Axelsson trying to look back the outside. This is going down the back straight. Lewis said this is an overtaking opportunity potentially, but not around the outside. Or can he make it stick? It's going to be on the inside for the next corner. No, he thinks better of it, Lewis. Thank God.
Yeah, it was so close from Eric there. I respect the attempt. That was a really close call there. He nearly managed to make that one stick. But now we've got the cars very close together. We'll see who's got a good exit. It looks like Joel is lining up Chris Blakey for second. He's definitely close enough. Hopefully we'll see them take this to the braking zone and he's not just going to let him go.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what we saw earlier on, the only overtake we saw in race 1. Oh my days, Chris Blakey. I don't think he really knew which part of the track he wanted to be on when he hit the brakes there, but actually he came out of it really nicely, didn't he? Right onto the back of Rich Hayden, in fact. So Chris Blakey, I don't really know whether his rear wheels were squirreling under braking or whether he was just didn't know whether to defend or not, but whatever happened, he actually ended up taking it quite well. Eric Axelsson, given the opportunity to chase back potentially. Craig Curtis, I don't think is really going to be much of a threat in terms of overall pace. But if Eric doesn't get it done quickly, and I think his rear end just stepped out a little bit there, this could be quite dangerous. But yeah, Oda Missouri, definitely getting stuck, isn't it? And we're finally going to see whether you can actually overtake around Sugo, because there is definitely a pace disparity between third and second right now.
There is, but one other thing that unfortunately won't be working in Eric's favour is we can see the top speed numbers. Now, Joel was in slipstream for his top speed figure, but he is nearly 2.5 miles an hour quicker on the straight than Eric is, which suggests to me he's playing to the Honda's strengths of getting down the straight very quickly. But Josh Martinen's recovered it up to 7th, so if these guys can't make the progress and Josh can, he could still be a factor in this championship battle, because his next target is Odin Missouri in 6th place. So Josh can still help out Eric here because they're all still line astern.
Yeah, Odin is quite a way off now, I would say, in terms of championship standings. He really needed that fastest lap to be sort of in contention, I would say. He's now, I've said that actually, he's only about 14 points back on Joel Last, but like I said, that really requires a DNF from the other two drivers, considering the amount of drivers we've got here as Chris Blakey goes wide and allows Joel Last and Eric Axelsson through goes Craig Curtis as well. And Joel Last for the race lead doesn't quite happen on Rich Hayden, but all of a sudden this race is sparking into life, and you get the impression, Lewis, that if Joel can get ahead, Eric doesn't have the pace to try and overtake him out on circuit and catch him up and all that sort of thing. So if Rich starts to crack and the cork is pinged off, then I think Joel is going to be really one to disappear up the road. I think the championship will likely be his, and Eric Axelsson has prime seating, prime positioning to watch the championship just eke away from him. Going down the start-finish straight, Joel Last trying to break that slipstream potentially on Eric, going in through the first corner, and Chris Blakey overtaking Odin Missouri, who's really not having the race to remember.
No, he's not. It's surprising for Odin. He was very cautious on the safety car restart, which enabled Craig to get the jump. You could just see Craig have a ton more confidence on the brakes. He just stamped on the brakes and went flying up the inside, made the corner perfectly and everything. So, I can see on the driver cam there, Eric was all kinds of sideways through there.
You can see on his throttle trace as well, can't you? Up and down, up and down.
He's definitely struggling with drivability. I think he's running the Toyota quite aggressively, which they have done throughout the season. It's what helped Josh, mainly in Motegi actually, was running Eric's aggressive setup, because Josh has said in previous interviews and to me that he likes a car with like a really big amount of front end, and he doesn't mind it sliding around on him a little bit. So the setup that Eric's made has suited Josh perfectly and not himself, which is quite ironic. But at the moment, Josh is now lining up Odin, so he's beginning to get there. We're seeing purple sectors being traded all throughout the grid at the moment. They're still only in the 17s for the fastest lap, so I think we're still going to see that that fastest lap 3 points being fought for up and down the grid for the next 12.5 minutes. But at the moment, Joel's still not even on the back of Rich and pushing him round. He's still holding that gap. So I wonder if he's just doing a bit of management at the moment while he's not being pressured by Eric.
Yeah, well, for a little bit of an update, now this is a bit of a long shot, but if it came off, it would be a hell of a good bet. But if Rich ended up winning, Eric came second, so Eric got past Joel, Joel came third, and then Eric got the fastest lap as well. Eric would then become the champion, basically. He by 1 point, I believe. So that's a lot of if, buts, and maybes. But currently, as it stands, Joel Lask would be eking out, and he would win the championship by 3 points, I think. No, 4 points, sorry, because he's already 1 point ahead. You get 25 points for a race win. You get 22 points for second place, and you get 20 for third, and then it goes down by 2 points until you get to about sixth place. So yeah, it would actually be 3 points. Joel Lask would be the victor, the champion, as it stands right now on circuit. If we red flagged it at 11 minutes to go, that is how it would stand. So Joel Lask certainly in the prime position here, and Eric needs to do something, and that something is to get past Joel Lask at some point during this race, which obviously is proving very difficult because Joel can't even get past Rich. And that's not to say that Rich isn't doing a great job, Lewis, actually, is it? Because Rich's lap times are very fast indeed in comparison to potentially what he was doing in race 1 and comparative to the rest of the field as well. The low 1 minute 17, you're doing pretty well if you're in amongst that. Oda Missouri has the fastest lap, 1 minute 17.19. But Rich is certainly not exactly slow here, and that's why Joel is struggling to get past him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other factor which we haven't mentioned just yet is there was a lot of contact in that lap 1. If either of these cars have sustained big damage and Rich hasn't, then he's going to have a much nicer car at the moment. That's sadly one thing we can't get as information on the broadcast unless a driver points their webcam at their screen, which they aren't doing at the moment. But yeah, it's low 17s for this front group of 3, very low 18s for the second group on the last lap. So at the moment we've kind of got 2 groups at the moment, and then some stragglers further back who have been caught up in incidents. But it's interesting to see that Rich is just holding his own at the moment. He did do a lot of practice for this race, so I think race 1... Well, he did finish about 5th in race 1, so I think it does do justice to the practice he's put in. But yeah, he's really doing quite well with it at the moment. And I think Joel's just... He knows the situation, because we effectively told him in the commentary box that if he just sits here at the moment, knowing that Eric hasn't got the fastest lap or not, he knows at some point he's going to have a chance to pass Rich with his pace advantage. I think he's just controlling it for now and is just trying not to take risks where he doesn't need to, in the hope Rich falls off the road and makes it easy for him, or he can just make the move when it counts.
Yeah, I think if Eric was a little bit closer and a little bit closer on pace as well, maybe he'd be slightly more worried, wouldn't he? But as it stands right now, Rich is actually faster than Eric as well. My goodness me, I thought that was going straight into the back of Rich. It isn't to be. And we also, another variable, another one of the 1,000 variables. You talked about that contact of early on in race 2. I mean, we haven't, this is all provisional. We haven't got the judicials. I mean, there could have been, someone to get a penalty. There could be contact that we didn't see. I mean, we saw it off the race start. We didn't see through going to turn 1 that there was more contact as well. Who was that? Who caused it? Who ended up at the back of the field? There'll be protests left, right and centre, and obviously that's the steward's decision of how they get rid of that one. Josh Martin, though, was that around the outside of Oda Missouri, yeah?
If it was, that was incredibly brave and a brilliant move, which we've unfortunately not caught. I'm sure because it's Josh, it was a move around the outside. He loves his bold moves, and he loves doing them when we're not following him. he loves to pull off.
He likes to tell us about them, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, so I'm sure we'll have a look afterwards, or he'll show us. But yeah, I think Joel is now lining up Rich. He's got a good exit. Might have to be a bit of a lunge from here, but I think he's got a shot.
He has got a shot, hasn't he? I think it may well be a lunge, but it may well be worth it as well, because look at the overspeed going into turn 1. My goodness me, I'm not entirely sure there was room there. We didn't have the best camera angles. Oh, Rich has spat him into him, but he's turned in the right way at the end, and Eric Axelsson can't get past. Joel Lask takes the lead of this race. Rich Hayden falls down to 5th place. And, well, that one's certainly going to be one for the stewards, I think, isn't there? Because I'm not entirely sure there was room for Joel Lask. He had committed to it. Whether or not Rich then moved over to try and block it off and Joel was already committed, or whether Joel could have pulled out of that move, we're not sure. We can't see the cameras. We don't have the replays. That one's up to the stewards. And then obviously there was an incident at turn 2 as well. But Joel ultimately has the lead of this race. But we have to probably say, Lewis, that this is now going to be a provisional because there was certainly an incident involving one of our championship contenders. So we're certainly going to have to start saying provisional, aren't we? Whether it goes his way or not, that's not up for us to decide.
Yeah, well, it is actually up for me to decide because...
Well, yes, but not right now, is my point.
Yes, not right now, when I've had a look at the angles, because I think it would be unfair for Rich to make judgment on an incident he's involved in. I help him with all of the process for all of the incidents, so I know the precedent he likes to set, so I can kind of go along with the precedent once we've had a look at all the angles. But Josh Martin up into 3rd place now. I mean, the others aren't too far in front of him, and Joel is certainly going to have a lot of damage from that accident. This isn't over just yet for Eric.
No, you're right, actually, and this is going to cause me a headache, isn't it? Joel Lask is now, though, currently as it stands with 6 minutes to go, sorry. Will have an extra 25 points to his name. Eric will have another 22, so Joel will win it by about 4 points. And I haven't looked at the fastest lap, I will be completely honest, but I think currently Josh Martin holds it.
Yep.
Yes, he does. 1 minute 16.9, about 2 tenths quicker than Joel Lask for the time being, and he has that clean air in front of him and potentially a healthier car, like you were just saying, Lewis. So let's, for the sake of ease, let's say Josh Martin is going to hold that fastest lap. It's going to be, he's going to be close to Paul Laramie all of a sudden as well. I'm going to have to do some more maths. I might have to throw to you for a whole minute, Lewis, or so you can tell us about dampers or sim racing or something again, and whittle on for 2 minutes about that, which I'm sure you'll love to do whilst I do some more maths. But right now, it is looking strong for Joel Lask. But what does Eric do? Actually, I'm going to throw to you now. What does Eric do? Does he let Josh Martin through if they catch up and try and let him and unleash him to catch up to Joel Lask? Or, and trust that Josh will ultimately, try and carry Eric through and potentially let him through towards the end? Or does he try and hold position, maybe pull the team orders, pull the championship card and say, no, stay where you are?
I think that all depends on how confident Eric is in Josh's ability and speed to catch and pass Joel. If Eric thinks realistically the best shot at him getting past Joel is for Josh to make the move, hold him up, and then find a way to open the door for Eric to get through as well, then I think that's his best shot. But if he thinks, I might have the raw pace on him now after I've seen him get involved in an incident and have damage, then that might be his best strategy. So those kind of 2 scenarios will be playing through his mind at the moment as he's driving. These top drivers can do a heck of a lot of thinking. I mean, we talked to Odin in the post-race interviews, and he instantly knew he was getting the fastest lap, so he must have had that coming up as information on his screen, which is obviously something he must have been thinking about. But at the moment, it's a 17 flat for Joel, and we're up to a 17.3 for Eric, so not troubling the fastest lap of a 16.9 at the moment. Oh, Josh got very sideways there, so he's really pushing on the limit of the car at the moment there. Adrian Felder's saying in the chat, Rich's safety rating must be through the roof after that incident. Well, safety rating... Josh is off again. Josh is overdoing it a bit now.
I was going to focus on Josh, to be honest, a little bit, because Craig Curtis sliced his way through, which is quite a nice little move there for third place. But Josh maybe, overdriving it slightly. I was going to mention him, actually, because we don't have Paul Laramie. Mistake me if I'm wrong. Where is Paul Laramie in this race?
He DNF'd after the race, the lap 1 carnage. So yeah.
All of a sudden, Josh Martin is in with a chance of getting that 5th, because he's 10 points behind going into this race. And with 4th place currently being Josh's position, it's 18 points. If he gets past Craig again, it's 20. So all of a sudden, Josh will take over Paul Laramie and get that 1 hour sim practice at VRRC.
Yeah, he will. Josh doesn't live too far away from me, and I've managed to make the track, so I'm sure he will. Oh, big defence from Craig there, though. Craig doesn't want to give this one up. But going back to my quick little point about safety rating earlier, before Josh decided to provide us with some entertainment, safety rating is an incredibly complex calculation. Rich has employed the help of Andy Carroll to utilise databases and extension of the formulas that we already had to make them as good as possible to give a good representation of how safe drivers are. So it depends what penalty we give Rich, because that'll be part of what makes up his safety rating, but it won't matter too much. This is the final round, and Rich doesn't like to run in our main championships because he wants to put all of his focus on race directing. But we've got a big fight over third place to talk about now, as Andy Carroll's just gone for a move on Kenny Press.
Yeah, and I think he's managed to do it, hasn't he? I don't think Kenny Press really bothered to fight it that much, but Andy Carroll does go through. I've just been informed that Josh Martin actually left and rejoined the server in race 1 to try and reset his game. We did say that it frozen, so he resets, then he rejoins. That's probably going to be a disqualification from race 1, because you're not allowed to go back to the pits and then come back out, sort of thing. So it does get a little bit complicated. Everything's obviously provisional. I can only shout about what's going to happen out there on circuit, but we will give all the provisional cheers to what happens in the next 40 seconds, because this championship is about to round off. The last 40 seconds or so is starting now. Joel Lask has a 2.2 second lead ahead of Eric Axelson. Craig Curtis is trying to fend off Josh Martin, who's been very quick but slightly inconsistent, and then he's had game freezes and hardware issues as well in this particular evening, even though he's been more back on form of what we've been used to seeing him earlier on in his VRRC career. It hasn't necessarily gone his way tonight, so he still potentially will end up picking up that position from Paul Laramie. And it depends. I don't know how the judicials work, whether if he gets disqualified, but he will have to count it because there are no drop rounds actually in this four-round championship. So, going to be slightly more complicated, but right now he is putting on a bit of a show. He is giving us some entertainment as we go on to the final lap. And there he is, Joel Lask.
We're on the final lap.
We are indeed. A provisional provisional champion. And as he crosses the line...
Josh is getting him on the line!
He is getting him on the line. Eric Axelson's in second place. That looks provisionally where he's going to finish in the championship. And Josh Martin pips Craig Curtis on the line as well into third place. Craig is fourth, and Chris Blakey is in fifth. Andy Carroll rounds up the top six by the looks of it, with Kenny Press in seventh place. It all gets a little bit complicated. There's lots of things to go through. But I think right now, as it stands in terms of our championship counter and everything like that, Joel Lask is our champion. I'm sure we'll be having a chat to him after the race. Eric Axelson will be in second in the championship. Josh Martin will be somewhere in it. As it stands right now, he probably will get disqualified in race one, but that hasn't been taken into account yet. So provisionally, he's in fifth. I believe then Craig Curtis solidifies his fourth place in the championship with 2 fourth places tonight, which is nice and simple to do. And then you got Chris Blakey, Andy Carroll, and everything like that. So we'll bring you up to date with all the champions and the full championship order at the end of this evening. But of course, I believe we've got to go to a very short break before we have a chat to our podium sitters. And we are back, and for the final time, we're going to have a chat to a couple of drivers in this GT500 Championship powered by VRRC. And of course, we're going to take a bit of a focus on the championship, but of course, that race too as well, which certainly provided some action and drama. First of all, we're going to talk once more to the person we've spoken to. Well, this will be the third time we've spoken to Joel Lask this evening, our race 2 victor, our race 1 victor, and our pole position man in qualifying, and provisionally champion as well. Joel, big congratulations. That was, a hard-fought race victory. It was looked like it was going to be a little bit difficult at one point. Then obviously you got into lead and you started to stretch your legs a little bit.
Yeah, that wasn't the easiest. Obviously, sitting in someone's wash is not the greatest thing. Absolutely killed my tyres. No, that one killed me. I don't know what to say to it. Obviously, I'll have a look afterwards. But once I did manage to get into clean air, then it wasn't so bad. I could start putting the laps down. But by that point, the tyres had absolutely gone. So sort of hold on for dear life.
Well, talk us through that incident off the line as well, because you obviously started quite far back, being the race 1 victor and everything like that. There did seem to just be a bit of a cluster right at the beginning. And obviously, there was some confusion about potentially Josh Martin starting on the front row and then disappearing and then starting in the pit lane and everything like that. Do you sort of see that as what potentially happened, or was it just try and survive and you don't have no idea?
I honestly don't know. We got off the line, and then the next thing I know, there's a car spun in front of Eric. Eric slammed on the brakes, and then we've had to sort of dart out of the way of each other. I just took to the left-hand side where there's a little bit of off the track, towards the grass. I managed to sort of scoot it up the inside of a lot of the carnage, but I have no idea what happened in front. That was a bit crazy, that.
Well, let's focus on the overall picture then. Obviously, everything is provisional, but it looks like at the top of the championship points right now is your name. So that would be 3 for 3. What was sort of your favourite so far out of the NASCAR trucks or the GT500? Which one would you want to do again?
Probably these, to be fair. I love the trucks and the NASCAR, but these were something a bit different. You really got to fight the cars. And very realistic as well. But no, they were just awesome from start to finish. It's one of these cars that you either 100% bang on with it, or the car eats you alive. But I really enjoyed these ones.
No, that's fantastic. Well, it's as I said, it looks to be your name on the top at the moment. So big congratulations, Joel. It was a really good sort of evenings racing from you as well. Very impressive in terms of pace and everything like that. So big congratulations, and we'll hopefully see you at the 90-minute endurance race in a couple of weeks' time.
Thank you, Jack. Appreciate it.
Right, and I can hand over to Lewis Edwards, who has second place man on the road and second place in the championship provisionally.
Yes, I do, Jack. Eric, it was so close yet so far. How was that for you? Did you leave absolutely everything on the table there?
Yeah, that was so close. Obviously, I had a pretty bad start. Like there was some congestion or whatever, and Joel managed to get ahead of me early in the race. So yeah, that was that. And then we had some traffic in front, and I was just trying to stay as close to Joel as possible, hoping for him to make a mistake, but he hasn't do any, right? So yeah, that was tough. That was fun.
But yeah, we both suggested these cars and were real advocates for how good they were. How much fun have you had driving in this little special event?
Man, I think these cars are great. They're so fun to drive. Really challenge something different, So yeah, I think it's been great. I think we had had so many clean and fair battles in this championship, even though these cars are so fast. So yeah, that's been great.
And onwards to our next event, are we going to see you break out the LMP3 in a few weeks' time?
Oh yes, I'll do the LMP with Josh. So yeah, that's gonna be something different. Also fun. I'm like new to LMP, so that will be interesting to see how it goes. But hopefully I will, pick it up, and yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Well, you pushed me to the absolute limit in that LMP fun race at Sebring we did a while back, so I fear for everyone else who has to race against you.
I hope so.
But well done, Eric. It's been great to do this championship, so thank you for reminding me to try these cars again and for helping push Rich into giving us a special event in them.
Thank you, Lewis.
And Jack is now going to catch up with our third place finisher, who did it from the pit lane.
Yeah, he did. And to be honest, this is probably going to be a recap of what on earth happened over the entire evening for Josh Martin. But first of all, credit where it's due. You gave us some entertainment in that final race where we probably needed it most.
I can't just have a simple race, can I? I was so disappointed at that weird tech problem. So I felt I was so in the zone, sat on the grid. But yeah, all it was I haven't had it before, and then in practice, just before qualifying, it then like a really long whole game froze for like 30 seconds, and then I thought, God, that's weird. And then it happened then in qualifying as well. And then it happened again then in race one after my obviously I span. That was my own doing. Hit the curb, and I was running no rear wing, no as minimal downforce as I could have, so I could have maximum straight line speed, which helped me out in the end. But God, it made my life hard hanging on to this car. So I did spin in race one because of that and hitting the curb. And then it happened again then on the lap I spun. So I was like 30 seconds behind anybody. So I was just pushing for fastest lap each race. But yeah, race two was a bit better once I got off the line.
Yeah, I was going to say, you caused an awful lot, I'm sure unintentionally, but you caused an awful lot of confusion in terms of whether you would start on the front row of the grid, whether you wouldn't start on the front row of the grid, and then all of a sudden, from 3 seconds before the lights went out, your car appeared and then disappeared as the lights went out, basically. What was your point of view at that point?
To be honest, I haven't got a clue, because when it done it in the previous race, it froze. My car had disappeared for everyone, and then it rejoined and I carried on. But when it froze this time, I left the game because I didn't want it to appear, as everyone's starting. So from my point of view, I wasn't even in the game. So I haven't got a clue. So I apologise if I caused any trouble.
It was inadvertently. I don't think it was. Obviously, it wasn't your fault. But in terms of that final stretch to the end, where you could finally actually show off what you can do, carving through a bit of the field. Did you overtake Odin Missouri around the outside?
Yes, that's probably one of the best sim moves I've ever done.
We got the tail end of it. Yeah, we got the tail end of it, and I screamed. I was like, "Did he do that around the outside?" We didn't quite see it.
Yeah, he made a mistake coming out the chicane, got a bit of oversteer, and he covered the right-hand side. So I thought, I'm going for the outside. He left basically just the car's width on the entry to that corner, so I was pretty much, like 2 or 3 inches left. I'd have been on the grass and in the wall. So he left me just enough room, and again, just enough room around the outside of that first right-hander, and I was right up on the curb, and I just kept my foot in, and straight round the outside on the next bit. Definitely winced a little bit, waiting for the tap on the door or the rear corner, because obviously that corner's got negative camber, so it kind of makes the car understeer a bit. But yeah, fair play to Odin for not driving into me. But yeah, it was a brilliant move. And then I've done another. And then when I caught Craig up the first time, I don't know if you caught that on stream, but yeah, that was another move I was wincing. But it again, probably one of the best sim moves I've made, and 2 of them in the same race was pretty mega.
Well, make sure you keep your own replays, Josh, because I'm not sure we entirely caught them in all their glory, but they do sound amazing. And I have to say, the likes of Odin and Craig, a quick shout out from them. For them from you. They're obviously a really good addition to the championships in terms of racecraft as well. As you said, they gave you plenty of race respect. Yeah,
after because I didn't want to overtake Eric in that race. So once I kind of got behind them and a gap to Craig, I kind of, because like I said, I was really in the zone that race, and I kind of lost that bit of focus. It's almost like, just chill in this position, which obviously led to me nearly ending up in the wall, like with my low rear wing. I was completely sideways and had dirty tires, and then messed the chicane up, and then Craig got by, and I had a great little battle with Craig. I did just rub his rear bumper coming into turn 1, but it didn't affect anything. But other than that, it was so clean and like fair play to him, because it was brilliant racing, very close. We could have, we could have crashed so many times, but it's just a credit to his driving skill and racecraft skill. But I only ended up getting past him on that final lap, because my low aero, I was like a rocket down the start finish straight, and with those big bumps in the last corner, it's a bit of a roulette whether you get a good exit or not. And I think Craig got banked slightly wide, which scrubbed a bit of his speed, and obviously I had nothing to lose in fourth, so I kept my foot planted over the big bumps, and I had just enough speed to get him before the line. But yeah, again, awesome racing, because he could have, if he wanted to, he could have moved a few times down that straight and lost my momentum, but he didn't. It was all fair and really clean and what you'd expect.
Well, fantastic. Thanks very much for coming and having a chat to us, Josh. I believe, as we've said to the other two, everything is provisional, but I believe you may well have just eked yourself into the top 5 as well. So you may end up getting that 1 hour free VRRC Sim Center prize. But big congratulations and well done on race number 2.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Right, Lewis. There's a few things to be getting on with, but that's all we have for the top 3 in race 2. I believe we got the championship table to bring up. If we can have a very quick look at it. Obviously, my favourite word at the moment is provisional, but we will get it up for you as soon as possible. We also have graphics for what's coming up soon on VRRC in terms of fun races and time attacks and everything like that. But here is how it stands right now. It's Joel Lask who's on top with 175 points. Eric Axelsson with 168 is in second place. Odin Mazuria, he was a bit of an outside shout coming into this evening. He became even more of an outside shout in that race number 2. After race number 1. And that race number 2 really didn't go his way. But he did secure that 3rd place. Craig Curtis had 2 4th place finishes this evening, and that secured him 4th place. Shock horror. Josh Martin, it does look like he's provisionally snuck his way into that top 5 with Paul Laramie DNFing in the first race, but we'll have to see what the freezes for Josh's games meant, whether he had to reconnect, disconnect, go jump back to the pits and all that sort of thing. Kenny Press is in 7th. Chris Blakey was in 8th. Andy Carroll 9th. Rich Hayden rounds up the top 10, 1 point ahead of John Jones. Aylock Iyengar was in 12th. And Elliot Dalton-Ayres, who was a bit of a guest driver last week, did pretty well, I'd say, to get 38 points to his name, in all fairness. I was hoping we'd see him this week, but unfortunately, he was a no-show. He was in 13th place. Right, there are plenty of other things that are going on VRRC. Now we've come to the end of the GT500 Championship. We have got fun races, and we have got plenty of them coming up as well. I believe Eric Axelsson is now in charge of these, and it's free entry every Sunday, and every Sunday he gives a new track and a new car. This week it's at Knock Hill, and it's in the Caterham. Bit of a tricky car to drive on the simulators, but fantastic fun. I'm sure anybody can agree. A brilliant track day car, and Knock Hill is a fantastic circuit as well. So the fun race opening up the way for Knock Hill to return to VRRC, which I like to see, even if it is only in a fun race. But that's an 8 p.m. start here in the UK. Obviously this 23rd of July. It'll be different next week and the week after that, so you have to keep an eye on the VRRC socials. We've got time attacks as well. The time attack hasn't disappeared. There it is. We're also at Knock Hill, also in the Caterhams, and that will run for 2 weeks. I believe one of the Andys is now in charge of this, and that's not Hot Fuzz reference. It's just how it's going. That is another great opportunity for you guys to get involved with at home. I believe, Rich, is that free as well? Or is that to members?
No, it's free to everyone, but to win a prize, you have to be a member.
There we go. So if you want to get involved.
And the Caterham ends this Friday.
Okay, there we go. So if you want to win a prize, you have to be a member. But if you just want to see where you might stand in amongst the rest of the VRRC community, then the time attacks are a brilliant way at getting to know that sort of your pace range, and the fun races are as well. Right, last couple of things. The LMP3, we mentioned it a couple of times to a few of our drivers. With the LMP3 Enduro, a bit of a new format for VRRC. We like to try and experiment with these every so often. This is an endurance race. It's not a double distance race that people liked to call endurance racing a couple of seasons ago. No, this is a 90-minute one with teammates as well. You say likes of Eric Axelsson, so that he'll be teaming up with Josh Martin. No shock there, given the fact they're in the same team. But they'll have Road America to deal with, which is one of the most popular sim racing tracks in the world, and is also one of the most popular tracks in the world, to be honest, for endurance racing. It's absolutely brilliant. And the LMP3 Enduro car, well, first place, you'll get a remote control NGK car by the looks of it. Second place, you'll get the t-shirt for VRRC, which you can customize with your own name and number. And third place, you get a hat, which is currently, I've got one of them as well, living at the back of my car, actually, for sunny days. They are actually very comfortable, to be fair. And so that is in 2 weeks' time, so not next week, it's the week after. And it will be broadcast as well. Yeah, Rich, it is broadcast, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, fantastic. It is broadcast, so that'll be 2 weeks today. Last up, we have the Touring Cars Season 5. Basically very, very similar to the last touring car that we ran, apart from the fact we got different tracks, effectively. So we got hybrids coming back.
There's more changing than that, my friend.
Oh, Lewis informed me there was less than that. We also had the Leon making an appearance once more, so we bopped that to the rest of the field, and they've changed the physics. Is there anything else, Rich?
Yeah, full change of physics, and everything's obviously been rebopped. But they are driving. I mean, they were driving well before, but now they're absolutely planted and sorted cars. They feel absolutely amazing. So really excited about that. Loads of different tracks. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Good stuff. So the likes of Magny-Cours, Bruno, Mugello, Circuit de Catalunya, Red Bull Rings, Zandvoort, some of the biggest tracks in the world, basically, and all very, very suited to touring car action. I would argue Zandvoort's actually probably more geared towards touring car action than it is F1 these days, but it's going to be certainly a season to remember, and I'm very much looking forward to it. That kicks off on the 16th of August, runs all the way through to October. So if you are missing any VRRC action and touring car action, don't worry. Well, we're going to be bringing it back sooner rather than later. Right, that is all we have time for in terms of this championship and this evening's broadcast. It's only this time to say goodbye. A big thank you to Rich Hayden for putting on the championship. A big thank you to the drivers for giving us a fantastic show over the last 4 weeks. Thank you to Andy, who's jumped in when he can. Hopefully he'll be back soon. I'm wishing you all the best, Andy. And Lewis Edwards in the broadcast for jumping in whenever's needed, which has appeared to be every single week this championship, doing a fantastic job, dual broadcasting and commentating at the same time. And the biggest thanks goes out to everybody who's watched at home and commented and shared and everything like that, especially those of you who have jumped in and commented, even though none of your respective drivers are actually racing. It's always nice to have the support down here. My name's been Jack Oliphant. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time for the LMP3 Enduro. But until then, have a lovely week off and enjoy the summer holidays.
Woo!